Well, hello. Yes, I'm Eva and I come from Croatia. Before I start, wait, where is it? Here it is. Before I start, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, and you don't need to answer. You don't even need to raise your hands because they might be a bit intimate. I don't know. Well, one of the questions is, and please don't look at your neighbors or point to anyone or judge anyone. Is any one of you ginger? Okay, you can raise your hand. I mean, I see some pigment here. Let's hide that. Oh, are there any single ladies here? I mean, you don't need to raise your hand. Oh, are there any working moms who left their families to be here on an island in Sweden and just hide that hand? Oh, and this question, is there anyone here who sometimes feels queer in any way? Oh, and this question, you can raise your hands. This one you can, because I'm really eager to know this. Does any one of you home, in your kitchen, in your cupboards or somewhere, have some tea? Yes, you know, so you know herb. Okay, so if any of these answers were positive and you come to my home country of Croatia, to my town of Zagreb, but you happen to travel through time some 300 years ago, which is not that long time ago. These aren't Middle Ages, this is the 1700s. Then there's a good chance that you might end up accused of witchcraft. And if you got accused, you were as good as dead, because in my hometown, that's something that we might not be very proud of. They burned as many as 200 women at least for being witches. It was a terrible era. And as I said, it was late in history. In fact, I read somewhere, I'm not sure if this is true, that this is something that Croatia can compare to Sweden, that we are one of the last witch burners in Europe. Don't laugh, it's a serious topic. I'm insensitive. Oh no, the Balkan brings insensitivity. So this is what I'm going to cover with the presentation, probably not in that specific order. First, I would like to start with some rules of playful experiences, because as you see, I don't come from a research background. I work in tourism, and I usually have a very limited time with my guests to deliver an experience. So there's only one rule that I always follow when there's an occasion like this, and that's to make the rules as intuitive as it gets. Because if there's anything, when people are in their free time, leisure time, and if you have any kind of a command or input or instruction to give them, there's a block around them, a soundproof block. They simply don't hear it. So whatever the rules are, try to make them intuitive. Otherwise, it's going to end up hectic. And then when I say rules, I also mean like guidelines and even stereotypes. So usually people, when they hear that there are some kind of gamified experiences for tourists, they think, oh, it's for children, of course. And actually, that's perfectly true. I chose these two pictures from different experiences of the sort. Like the one on the right is a self-guided tour in the forest based on a pretty heavy history of the region. And the other one is a guided gamified tour, as you can see. And in both cases, the children are so close to the source of information, which shows you how it really rises their interest. And researches and experiences shows that boys of that age are not really the most common group when it comes to any sort of cultural experiences. So look at them reading about a noble family from the 1600s and their influence to the region, just to be the first one to solve the case. But actually, no, it's not just for children. We know exactly what the niches are. And I'm mentioning this because I thought maybe you could be interested in that because I personally work with a lot of this particular case that I'm about to present of the witch hunt quest has been visited by hundreds of tourists. And it so turns out that families and team buildings, so companies basically, are the ones who would be the first one to choose those experiences. But that doesn't mean that you can't get others. Like, I like this picture on the left because it shows just how many people will apply knowing that there's going to be some kind of a game involved. And they will, and if it's a free event, as you can see. There are people of all sorts of ages, different ages, except maybe for men. There are a few of them. Maybe I can count three on this picture. So that's just like the number of men who ended up burnt in the witch hunts of Zagreb. So it's not, you're never safe. But let's go, where's the actual transformation if education, if you don't count the education and maybe understanding of the value of the heritage, well then look at this case. This is a case of a game in the nature where this nature this science center that is placed inside of a forest where you can't reach by cars, and you need to walk 2 kilometers. It's not much, but it's a long and dull road. So the kids were extremely bored, always asking how much more, how much more. So they developed a gamified activity that will inspire kids to search for the little forest creatures, and they would give them tasks at certain points. And one of the tasks, see how the child is holding a bag, she's collecting garbage, is to clean the forest, a part of the forest. And the children were so enthusiastic that the forest was so clean, the organizers needed to literally put the litter before the children arrived. So it really inspired, and it's not just that part, because they continue following on the path, the task. Or my favorite example of the case in a town called Bakar on Croatian coast, where they decided to explore the case of a historical, you could call him an underdog. It's a person of a water carrier from the 1800s who was blind, but he continued to work, and his anecdotes and the way of life are a part of a story that engaged communities, the whole community, from children of all ages. There were different layers to this particular project, and it was listed as a good example in a catalog of cultural heritage and action practices. But one of the layers of the project was a quest that gave people such riddles and tasks that basically showed them to understand how it is, what it feels like to be blind or visually impaired. So all the riddles were put in that context. You needed some special skills to do that. And it also kind of showed a different perspective of people who are blind or visually impaired to people who can see perfectly, because all of a sudden they realize that they too have certain superpowers that we aren't aware of. So it's a beautiful project, and I didn't know whether to present this one or the other one, but let's go back to the witches. I mean, all of this was kind of a wider presentation. So the inspiration and creation. It's easy to get inspired because other than the historical witches, Zagreb has a lot of legends and lore as well. And it's a bit forgotten. And usually my main motivation is to explore the lesser known heritage and bring it back up to the surface. That was my main motivation. So from dragons to alchemists, the black schoolers, and in the middle, the worst sorceress of all, the mythical Black Queen that hides under the city in the shape of a snake. And And actually, this cruel creature of old, she used to be cruel, but maybe she softened up throughout the ages. She is the host of the witch hunt. But this is not the first time that the witch hunts of Zagreb are trying to be kind of transformed into an experience that would provoke people into thinking of difficult subjects like social injustices or equity or the position of women in society at different times. Or any kind of an injustice. So the first one who actually popularized it and sort of paid the debt to the witches of Zagreb was a writer, a female writer called Marija Jurić Zagorka, and her set of books about the witches of Zagreb, The Witch of Grič, that's one of the editions to the left, that was so popular that it's literally now interwoven in the city spirit. Visitors might not know it, but the locals, when they think of witches, they think of this mysterious veil that the city has, thanks to her books. And we think of them as heroines, not as victims of the prosecution. We don't even think of that in our minds. And it's all thanks to her. And just to show you how throughout the ages, this was a part of popular culture. There's everything from a rock opera, movie, murals, beers, you name it. There's something inspired by local witches. And this is actually a circle that can go the other way around because now that the witches of Zagreb and their history was transformed, tourism can actually completely destroy that reputation and build on the fun of the witches of this topic. This is my favorite part of popular culture, a cartoon that was actually approved by the author herself. And this beautiful quote, do you want me to read it in Croatian or just translate it? Okay. Onda smo jele mesa I svega finoga I pile kuhano vino slađe od meda. Jedan vrag me vraški grlio, meaning. And then we had some meat and all the nice things. And we had mulled wine, sweeter than honey. And the devil started hugging me devilishly. So that would be just a really nice confession, but a confession that all the witches would have to give, because when you were on trial back in the 17th century, you had to give out a confession. Those tortures were so terrible that the confessions ended up imaginative enough. They wouldn't be this polite. There would be all sorts of extreme scenes in those confessions because otherwise they wouldn't finish with the tortures. And there were cases that were so terrible that mothers gave away their own daughters for being witches because they probably just couldn't stand the torture anymore. And see, this is how this whole quest works. It puts you from a really fun and inviting atmosphere, like very leisure and superficial, and then it just keeps confronting you with the actual questions that and maybe legacy that this has left, and how do we even use it? See, I just chose deliberately to end this few photos from a group of educators that came to the tour to see if this would be something that could be used with their high school children that they work with. And judging by the fact that several of them have come back with the kids, whoever was able to get the fundings, they actually, I think they thought it was pretty worthy. And see how this is now the time where they are just listening, and they're pretty serious here because they are getting confronted with some unwanted facts. Like, look at this place. This is the actual place where the witches were standing at the pillar of shame, at that same place that they are standing. So these are some details that just raise these are the moments of true learning, these discoveries. And then they used to solve all sorts of riddles. get engaged. They found the treasure chest. It was so exciting. And then this little mushy ending. I'm not going to share all the details because who knows, maybe when you come to Zagreb, you're going to want to try it. But see, this is how it works. You put the group in certain setting. You give them a task to save the city, not from the witches, but with the witches' spell of old. And even the Black Queen in the end kind of gets a small transformation to help them think about it more profoundly. And the lessons I've learned, well, I'm just going to give you a few quick lessons. Originally, I didn't start with the idea that this could raise some serious questions, although I know that I don't really seem like approach things seriously, but I actually do think them profoundly. I might not take, I don't know, life very seriously, but when I'm working on some topics, I do. And I really saw that I was really surprised. This is my oldest quest, a gamified experience like this. I've been doing it for more than 10 years now, and of course it has been changing. But it really opened my eyes how games are actually a really good way to learn. Since I was surprised when they told me that when people started telling me, "Oh my God, we learned a lot," and I was thinking, "No, you didn't. If you came to a tour and you were listening to me for 2 hours, then you would learn a lot." But that's when I realized, when people kept saying that, that's when I realized that this is really a vessel that encourages people to provoke them to think more, inspires them to, even for an introspection, to ask themselves what would they do. So I believe that these experiences can, be a tiny little cogwheel of a change. But also another lesson that I've learned is that we don't really have any sources where we could conduct it, like people in tourism industry, how to conduct it more carefully and mindfully. And that's kind of a task for the academic community. So I can't wait to read some researches about that.